Okay, guys, before I get started on this Thursday slash early Friday morning sales training, let me first tell you what happened yesterday because it's such a Mercer thing. We were on our call yesterday and I decided that we wanted to go over the sales process to make sure that everyone understood just sales in general and talk about what the real experience is in sales, what you can expect. And if you're not getting that, then you know what's wrong. So we had what I thought was a very, very good sales training. And then I looked down and I realized I was not recording it. So then everyone on the phone, everyone on the webinar, I told them, I said, look, I'm going to go over this again. So we were already an hour into it. I figured, you know what, for those of you who want to hear it again, just stay on the line and we'll go over it again. So the second time, I did record it, which was good. But then after about 45 minutes, I was leaning forward into my microphone and my knee was resting on the tower of the computer and I shut it off. So I lost everything. So needless to say, I got to do it again. So this is the third time I'm covering this stuff. I hope it ends up being okay. Hopefully I'll have the same energy I had yesterday. It is very, very early on Friday morning. But before I get started, I want to. There was a question a lot of people had about the video page, the video review page, and they wanted to know where those videos are. Because keep in mind that the videos that you see here, these are just for an example. You shouldn't really use these. You can use these just to show your client. But when you're creating a page for your client, you need to customize it for them, which means that you need to take a video, you need to customize it, use Camtasia or something like that. Add the client's logo and whatever else you need to add to make it look customized. And then you need to upload it to your own YouTube so that you can tag it correctly, right? So you need the raw footage. You need the MP4 files of these videos. Where those are right here, located under sales material. They're right there. MP4 video files for video review page. So you can go right here, you can download these, they're in a zip file, and you are welcome to edit those any way you want. And that'll get you started with some really basic video marketing. Obviously, if you guys are going to get real serious into video marketing, in lieu of buying somebody else's program, you could probably do it yourself. Just go to Fiverr and get maybe 5 or 10 other generic videos, spokespeople, and then you can edit each one of those. And then obviously you can sell video marketing to your client. Maybe you tell them, hey, we changed the video, or give you a new video once a quarter or once every other month, or however you want to do that. But in addition to that, what I wanted to go over was the sales process and talk about actually calling businesses up, because I was doing some role playing, some mock calls with one of our resellers who has got a telemarketing company that's doing it. When they wrote out their script, I read it, and the script was good, but they were missing an important ingredient in it, and I want to make sure that you guys understand this step. And the step is that when you call your business, your prospect, and you finally get the owner on the phone, you need to make sure that he's on the same page as you are. You can't just say, hey, I saw your awful reviews and you need to fix that. Here's our program. Here's the cost, blah, blah, blah. You need to build a little bit of rapport. Make sure that they understand what these reviews mean. Because it's important. Here's what happens. The reason that every business out there doesn't already have some sort of system is because they figure it must not be that important. And here's why. Because you'll call up Bob's Automotive, and Bob's Automotive has been open for 10 years. Okay? And Bob's Automotive has a 3-star Google rating. He's got 7 total reviews, and 3 of them are bad ones. Okay? Which means 4 of them are good ones, right? And what he's thinking is, well, you know what? I've been in business for 10 years, and yeah, I have these bad reviews, but I've never heard anyone once mention it. So he thinks, it must not be that important, right? So it's out of sight, out of mind. But here's the problem with that. And this is your job. You need to remind him of what's really going on. Those negative reviews are like a cancer. It's a cancer that you do not know about. It is losing a business's sales or new customers, or pushing those customers off to their competitors without the business owner ever knowing. Because nobody ever goes online, reads reviews like that are bad, and then says, okay, I'm going to call that business up and I'm going to let them know that I'm not going to use them. Hello, Bob's Automotive. I wanted to call you and just let you know that I will not be doing business with you because of your bad reviews. No, it's not how it happens. It happens in silence, in secret. People read reviews and they move on. Usually there's not even a lot of thought into it. They even can look at the star rating and maybe we'll guess right off the bat there. If there's 4 other automotive places in that town and they all have 4 and 5-star reviews, he might just naturally know, that prospect might just naturally know, well, I'm just going to call these other ones. Now, a small percentage, or a medium percentage, or a large percentage, some percentage of those people that are going online and looking for a business, let's use the automotive one that I always use, they're going to take it a step further, and they are going to read those reviews. And they're going to look them over. And if they read bad reviews, they picture themselves having that same experience. And they say, well, no, I don't want to use these guys. Especially in those higher dollar ones, higher dollar businesses, which is why we target those. Because look, if you've got to get a transmission for your car, that's not something that you want to screw up. If you're going to spend, I don't know what a transmission is, $1,000, $1,500, whatever, you want to make sure that it's done right, because there is no room for error. You can't go, oh, well, I bought one here and they did a terrible job. No big deal. I'll just go and get it someplace else. It's not like going and buying a hamburger at a place and going, well, I don't like their hamburgers. No big deal. I'll go to the next place. No, it's a big dollar. It's a big ticket item. Same with roofers. Same with wedding planners and wedding photographers and limousine companies and all the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you call your business and you get them on the phone, that's the first thing you want to point out to them is say, hi, Bob, from Bob's Automotive. I was online and I work with a lot of different businesses in your industry, and I was looking at automotive businesses in your area, and I read your bad reviews. Have you seen those? And then you shut up. Then you are very quiet. You wait for him to answer. Because if you give the owner enough space there, he will probably tell you, not only does he know about them or not know about them, whatever, but usually he'll know about them. He will tell you why they're not real. He will say, that customer was crazy because they thought this, or it's a disgruntled employee, whatever. There's going to be a story behind it. You need to hear that story. And if it takes 20 minutes, you listen for 20 minutes. Because the other goal, when you're getting a prospect on the phone for the first time, is to keep them on the phone as long as possible. Because really, you got to break down the barriers, we can call them hurdles, in between it just being a call from a salesperson, and you got to get them to the point where they're actually listening. So when you first get them on the phone, all they are thinking is they might answer you, or they might even just say, what is it? Why are you calling? I'm not interested. You need to keep them on the phone. Plow through that. You don't hear I'm not interested. You keep talking. Well, I saw this. I saw your reviews, and I noticed this bad one from Linda. You know, I'm sure you realize that that is losing you customers. I've also looked at some of your competitors in your area, and I saw Larry's Automotive down the street, and he's got 50 reviews, and he's got a 4.5 reputation score. So obviously he has some kind of system. But Bob, the reason I'm calling you is because this is losing you sale. And here's the bad part, Bob, is that you don't know about it, because no client, no prospect reads your reviews, Bob, and then calls you up and says, hey, Bob, I just want to let you know that I'm not going to be doing business with you. I'm going to go to Larry's Automotive down the street because I read your bad reviews. So you need to point that out. You need to also share with them why other reasons why reviews are important. Hey, Bob, did you know that even if nobody ever read your reviews, you would still want to have positive reviews because it improves your placement online? So, Bob, here's the good news. The good news is you're probably only losing, 3 or 4, maybe 5 new customers a month that you're giving to your competitors through your bad reviews. So obviously you're not losing all of them, as you've known. And Bob, I'm sure, how long have you been in business, Bob? 10 years? Okay, great. Well, look, in 10 years, think about it. You've had hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of customers, and only 7 times has somebody left a review, 3 of which were negative. But the bad part is, Bob, there's still a certain percentage of customers that you're turning away, and it's just ridiculous to turn those people away. I mean, yeah, you're still getting customers, but wouldn't you want an additional 3 or 4 customers a month? Now, all along the way, guys, as you're explaining this to Bob, Bob's also going to say, yeah, look, I'm really busy. I'm not interested. I'm all those kind of things. You need to ignore those and plow forward. Every time he says, I'm not interested, you've got to think of every sale like this. Imagine it that it's a track, a running track, and it's hurdles. And at the finish line, in between where you are right now and the finish line, there's 10 hurdles. And every hurdle is Bob saying, I'm not interested. So every time you plow past a hurdle, you're one step closer to a sale. But you can't go around them. You have to go through them. So the way to do that, obviously, is you ignore it. And you ignore it with some grace. So, Bob, I can appreciate you not being interested. Hey, reviews aren't an exciting thing to talk about. But we've got a system that makes it so you do not have to worry about it. We handle 100% of everything, but you can pick up those extra 2 or 3 clients a month. I mean, why give them to your competitors? I'm not interested. Well, listen, Bob, let me do this. I want to set up a demo account and show it to you. It doesn't cost you a dime. I just want to show you exactly how it works. And then at that point, if you decide you don't want it, no harm, no foul. However, I believe once you see how simple it is, you're going to realize that you don't want to keep throwing away customers and sending them over to your competitors. And guys, as I go through this, obviously, what you want to do is you're going to write out your script and memorize it and then throw it away. But as you're writing your own script of what your approach is going to be, this is how you do it. You sell it as if you were selling it to yourself. Imagine, once you write a script, imagine that you're the prospect now, and if somebody called you up and gave you that script, would you buy? And if the answer is no, then you got to focus on something a little bit different. You have to have a different approach. And look, I know that we're not all exactly the same consumers, but the reality of it is that if we pitch it based on what we feel and what we believe, there's honesty in that, there's truth in that, and there's a confidence level in that, and that will come out in your presentation. And the reality of it is you would be surprised how similar we all are. So in that first call, really, your challenge isn't even coming up with the most brilliant things to say in the world. It's to keep the guy on the phone. And you got to plow past those 10 hurdles. Now, when you break past that last hurdle, this is what it sounds like. And tell me if this sounds familiar. So you keep pushing, you're keeping him on the phone, you're talking. And he finally goes, no, Now, wait a second. So, what is this? Who are you? Are you from Google? And as soon as he says that, as soon as he says, now, wait a second. Okay, so what is this? Now you got him. Now you got him. Now he's paying attention. Just realize that on every single call, most of the time, that business owner is not really paying attention to you. He's not. He's got a million different things going on. And, he or she is just trying to get you off the phone. It's the same thing that happens with you. If somebody calls you up and they're trying to sell you health insurance, you're not interested. Now, the reality of it is you may have a health insurance policy that's awful. It's, just terrible, and it's expensive and all those things. And the truth is that maybe you would be interested if somebody called you up and said, look, I've got a policy that's awesome and great, and it's a third the cost and all. Well, yeah, you would be interested, but at the moment that guy calls you, you're not thinking about it. It's the last thing you're thinking about. So of course you're not interested. You just want to get back to your day. Well, it's the same thing with your prospect. He's not interested. He's not sitting there thinking, boy, it sure would be great if I had a better reputation online. That's your job. You need to share with him all the reasons why it's important. You need to share with him some of the things he may not know, like that it helps his placement. But then you need to ask him questions. Bob, do you read reviews? Be prepared for him to say no. Although if he says yes, then you're that much closer. But ask him questions like this. Bob, statistically speaking, they say that 80% of people will read reviews before they're deciding which business to use. Now, to me, Bob, that number seems a little bit high. But what if it was only 1 or 2%? Bob, if you could pay $97 per month and you were guaranteed, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to pick up an extra 2 or 3 customers every month, would you do it? And then you just shut up, you wait. Now, you're not telling them that you guarantee you're going to get them that many customers, because there's ambiguity there. You don't really know, because not all customers call up and say, hey, I just read your reviews. But you will be amazed how many do. I'm always amazed when my clients tell me that. They're like, well, and I can tell when they do, because they call me after a few months and they go, well, I need to get more reviews. And then they become kind of a pain in the ass, because I'm already getting them a good number of reviews. But once they realize that the more reviews they have, the more sales they're getting, then now they want even more. But at any rate, now it does happen. So again, by asking your prospect questions in the beginning about this, you almost don't care the answer. I mean, you want to be paying attention for the answer, but the answer in most situations in that first 3 or 4 minutes on the phone, it's not going to be in your favor. He's not really going to give you what you need. Your job is to keep plowing forward and keep him on the phone, because you got to break past that last hurdle when he says, now wait a second, okay, now what is this? It's like, okay, now I'm paying attention. Okay, so first step is you write yourself a script based on what you would need to hear for you to buy the program. Second is you need to realize that every time you call, you can't just jump in immediately and go, here's your problem, I have a solution. You need to paint the picture. And also realize that as you're painting that picture, he's probably not paying attention anyway. So your goal is just to keep him on the phone, or her. If you keep them on the phone long enough, you can break past that hurdle, and now you're talking. Okay? So there's something called the point of insanity in a sale. All right? And it can be used in a sale, and it's also used in prospecting. So let's first tell you what that means. And you guys have probably heard of me talk about it in the past, but I'm going to talk about it again. So we have all gone in and experienced buying a car. And no matter if it was a month ago or 20 years ago, the experience was probably the same, especially if it was a large dealer. You went in and the salesman ran up to you or saleswoman and said, "Hey, sir, how can I help you?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for a new car." "Well, what are you looking for?" "Well, I'm looking for something like a sporty sedan, some kind of four-door." And he says, "So what kind of payment are you looking at? What's your price range?" "Well, I'd like to be under $450 a month." And he goes, okay, great. Well, let me show you some cars. So you shop around, you look for cars, and you find one that you're in love with. He can tell. He can tell that you like it. And you say, "All right, you think I can get it for this?" And then he says, "I don't know. Let's make an offer. Let's find out." So you go into his office, you sit down, you fill out paperwork, credit app, so forth, and you give him an offer. You say, "Hey, I will pay X for that car." And he says, "I don't know. Let me go see if I can do it." So there may be in the beginning, he might come back relatively quickly and go, "Hey, they wouldn't do X, but they can possibly do this amount or whatever." But usually the way it happens is they leave you alone for 30 minutes or more. And why do they do that? Why? It's amazing that they still can get away with it too. We all kind of know, don't we? Do you think they're really going back to a guy sitting at a desk in the credit department who actually is taking 30 minutes to figure out if he's going to accept that deal or to run your credit? Or they're that busy? Maybe sometimes, but usually not. It's part of their sales process. Because what's happening is in that 30 minutes, as you are sitting there waiting for this guy to come back, you're taking ownership. You're picturing yourself drive that car. And if you really love the car, then you're really taking ownership. I mean, that's what, there's a certain kind of person that's a good car buyer, and that's the person who can do it without any emotional attachment. They can go look at a car and go, "Look, I will walk away. This is what I'm going to pay. No more. Don't really care." They don't fall in love with the car and the color and all that. I'm not that guy. I fall in love with the car and the color and all that. And I always end up paying more. I'm the guy we're talking about in this scenario. So the guy comes back in after 45 minutes and he says, "Okay, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is we've got you approved. The bad news is that your payment's going to be a little bit more than $450. It's going to be $510. So it's $60 more than you were thinking." He's not going to tell you that. He's just going to say it's going to be $510. And usually that salesperson, if he's good, he's going to be quiet. He's going to wait. Because what he's doing in that time is, for the last 45 minutes, you've been sitting there picturing yourself driving that car. You've taken ownership. So now comes that point of insanity where he no longer has to sell you. You'll sell yourself. And it sounds a little like this in your head. "You know what? Yeah, that is $60 more than I was thinking. But you know what? This new car, gets better gas mileage than my old car. So I'll probably save even more than $60 a month in gas. And this car's newer and probably will break down a lot less. And I bet you my insurance is going to cost less, etc., etc., etc." So you're selling yourself on all the reasons why, hey, you know what? I should do this. Guess what? Your prospects are doing the same thing to you to a certain degree, but you got to get them there, and it doesn't happen fast. So the point of insanity when you are selling is this. The first one is you got to sell them on the idea of listening. That's the first sale that needs to happen. Okay? You got to sell them on, "Hey, look, let's talk about reviews." "I don't want to talk about reviews. I'm not interested." "I can appreciate that, but listen, this is the time to talk about it. You are losing customers right now. Did you read this this review from Linda?" "I do. I'm not interested." "I can appreciate you not being interested. It's not an exciting thing to talk about." But blah, 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 blah. You just push, push, push. Keep them on the phone. Keep talking, keep talking. And you're going to get to a point where that prospect's going to either say, "I'm not interested," and hang up, which is not a bad thing. It means that you did your job. Because, look, as salespeople, guess what? Our job is to push, to get people in the mode where they're thinking about what we need them to think about. Because if the product sold itself, then you're out of work. If the product sold itself, if the product sold itself, why would we have it resellers? We would just lock this thing up and send out mailers or something, or put a big sign on the street say, "Come here and get your." No, it needs to be sold because people don't understand how important it really is. So you got to paint that picture for them. So that's the first sale. Okay, the first sale is get them to the point where they go, now wait, now what is this? Here's the second sale, guys. The second sale, after you share with them the program, maybe you take them to the website and give them a demo. That's always a good idea. And you first want to sell them based on an amount. Listen, our program is only $97 per month. There is no contract. You can cancel at any time. Be quiet. See what he says. I'm not really interested. Let me think about that. Can you email me something? Listen, I'm going to do a step better. I'm going to go ahead and set up your account. Okay. This way you can think about it. You can talk to whoever you need to talk to. And let's schedule a call. Today's Friday, so let's schedule a call for next Thursday, which gives you plenty of time. I'm going to go ahead and set up your account. I'm going to call you next Thursday, and I'm going to walk you through the program so you can see exactly how it works. And if at that time, Bob, you decide that you don't want it, no problem. You can just let me know. Trust me, Bob, if I thought that you weren't going to take it, I wouldn't go through the effort of setting up the account. That's how confident I am that you'll see how easy it is and that you'll want it. Okay, so Bob, what is the email address that you would like on the account where we're going to send the email alerts to? Bob, you're going to get an email alert anytime somebody posts a Google review. Also, anytime somebody gives you feedback. Bob, what's that email? Guess what Bob says? Bob says, look, I want to think about this. Can you email me some information? Let me look at it. Bob, absolutely. I can shoot you an email or something, but what I'm talking about is I'm just going to set up a demo account for you. I'm going to set up your account, and then when I call you next Thursday, we're just going to go over it. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. That way you can get started. You can understand the process. Bob, if between now and then you decide that you don't want it and you don't think having those bad reviews are a problem, which, Bob, they are. So whether you get our program or get something else, you need to get something. Stop throwing away those sales. But Bob, I'm going to get this set up, so I just need an email address. Bob, do you want me to send those to you? What was your email address? Be quiet. Wait for Bob. Guess what Bob says again? Bob again says, yeah, you know what? I need to get with my son because my son he knows about computers and he knows about this stuff. I don't know computer. I'm just a mechanic. I just turn wrenches. But my son, he's an expert on all this. Let me get with him and let me, talk to him. Hey, Bob, not a problem. In fact, let me go ahead and get your account set up. And then when we talk next Thursday, you can even have your son on the phone. However, you don't need to be a computer expert for this. All you need to do is invest an additional 3 seconds with every customer, enter their mobile number, and then that's it. If you can do that, then it's not unusual to pick up 3, 4, 5 new customers every single month. Stop giving them away to your competitors. It's hard enough to be a business owner. So, Bob, what's the email address you want me to use? Bob might, again, go for another excuse. Or what Bob might do is say, look, I'm just not interested, click. And if that happens, if he hangs up, well, then you're okay. Now you can go to your next call. Because Bob's not going to buy. But what Bob's probably going to do is if you're tenacious, Bob's probably going to give you the email address. And then Bob's going to say, well, listen, I'm not buying anything. I'm not saying I'm buying anything. No, Bob, of course not. All we're doing is setting up an account for you. I'm going to walk you through it, show you exactly how it works. And if you decide to keep it at that point, great. If you just don't want it, that's fine too. Or what Bob might say is, and this happens a lot, you know what? I have a million different expenses going on. We just bought a big brand new equipment, and our marketing budget, We already spent that. Our advertising budget, I hear that a lot. I don't even know what that means. Our advertising budget, they don't have a budget for advertising. The budget is to spend as little as possible and get as many customers as possible. Especially these guys that it's a one owner, small business. Anyway, he says something like that. We just can't afford it. Here's your answer. Okay, Bob, not a problem. You know what I'm going to do for you, Bob? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to set up your account. All right? Let's talk next Thursday. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. And Bob, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the first 30 days for free. I'm not going to charge you. Because, Bob, I'm sure, you probably get a million calls. You don't know me. Don't take my word for it. Just see how the system works. See how simple it is. So, Bob, let's do that. I'm going to give it to you for free for the next 30 days. And at the end of that 30-day period, Bob, I'm going to call you up. And if you decide you want to keep it, great. It's only $97 a month. And, Bob, if you decide for any reason you don't want it, hey, no harm, no foul, Bob. You never pay a dime. And here's the good news. You get to keep all the positive Google reviews we get you. Bob, there's a pretty good chance that in these next 30 days, we can actually fix your reputation. I bet you we can get it up to close to a 4 stars at least. At least then you're in the same ballpark as your competitors. Bob, you have to agree with me that this is just too easy to not fix. Why give these customers away? And Bob, in 6 months from now, more people are going to be reading reviews than they are today. 6 months ago, it was the same thing. More and more people are reading reviews. That means you're going to be giving away more and more customers every single month to your competitors. So, Bob, next Thursday, is 1 o'clock good for you, or is 1:30 going to be better? And then you're quiet. You don't say anything. You wait for him to respond. And I'm telling you, if it's quiet for 10 minutes, then you shut up for 10 minutes. Because the first person to talk loses. And if he's really good, you know what he might do? He'll say, "Are you still there? Hello? Yeah, Bob, I was just waiting. I want to know what time the call is." That's when Bob starts selling himself. Bob says, "You know what? This guy's not going to give up. So, you know what? All right. Hey, it doesn't cost me anything. I'm not spending anything. Let's let him go ahead and set it up. And I'll take a look next week because, you know what? That is a good point. I hate that I have these negative reviews, and why throw customers away? And by the way, hey, even if I picked up one customer a month, then that more than covers the cost of the program. If I picked up one customer every 2 or 3 months, that covers the cost of the program." So then he says to you, "Okay, yeah, let's do 1:30. From that millisecond on, he's like a different person. "Okay, great, Bob, 1:30. Did you want to have somebody else on the phone? Should I set up a GoToWebinar, or should I just call you?" By the way, the training takes 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes you could get started right away. And like I said, Bob, if you decide at that point that you don't want it and you just want to keep your negative reviews, it's not a problem. But if you don't get our program, Bob, you're going to need something eventually. So, Bob, at 1:30, should I just call this phone number, or is there another phone number? That's the sales process. Now, there's about 1 million different combinations that can get you to that same place, but that's what it sounds like every time, or almost every time. But here's what we do as salespeople. Okay, so I just painted the picture of what you should be doing. Be aggressive. Be tenacious. Be pushy. Don't be rude, but be pushy. That's your job, salespeople. But here's what happens. You've been prospecting for a while. You finally get Bob on the phone, and you, "Hi, Bob," and you do all that, and you're talking. You at least get him past. You get past those first, presentation hurdles, and you knock over the last hurdle. So now he's listening, and he says, "Now what is this? Who are you?" And you're like, "Okay, here's what I got." So you explain the program to him, and what Bob says is this: "You know what? This sounds good. I think we need this. Let me wait till I show my wife. My wife is, helps out in the office or whatever. She's gonna love this. Yeah. So let's set up that call next week. Can you email me something and just call me? Just email me something and call me. And you, as a salesperson, you're all excited because you think you just got a sale. You don't really have any commitment of like setting up an account. You need to set up the account. Let him know you're setting up the account. And if you don't get that far and you don't set up the account and get his email, where do you want the alerts to go to? Bob, in the feedback questions, here's what we usually get. Is there any other ones you want? You've got to kind of do all that. You've got to cement the deal. Because if you fall for that, what he tells you, and he may be telling the truth. Hey, look, this sounds good. Can you email me something and then give me a call? And you think, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I got a sale. So in your mind, you're like, yay, I got a sale. Great, now I'm going to go on to the next one. But guess what happens? You've gotten no kind of sort of commitment from him. Now, granted, setting up an account isn't a huge commitment, but it's a commitment. It's a buying sign. You have told them, I am setting up your account. I am doing work for you. But if it's just an email and call me, the chances are he's not going to answer. What's going to happen is this. So you hang up the phone and you end your day thinking, all right, great. Well, I got Bob. I know I got Bob. Would have been nice to sell him immediately, but I know I got Bob. He says he's interested and told me to call him back, and he'll buy then. Yeah, I'm sure he will. And then a week goes by and you call Bob, and Bob is not in the office because he's sick. Well, Bob's sick. That's not your fault. It's not Bob's fault. I'm sure he's still interested, but he's sick. He's just not there. And you call him the next week and he's on vacation. Well, Bob's on vacation. He probably planned that a year ago. This is just bad timing for you. So 2 or 3 weeks go by, and now you can't get Bob back on the phone. Or if you do, he says real quickly and flippantly, hey, you know what? I thought about this. I just don't want it. And he shuts you down. So does that sound familiar to anybody? How many times do we call people up and we hear this after we do our little spiel? We hear, yeah, that sounds good. Hey, can you email me some information? And let me talk to my partner about this. And just give me a call sometime next week. And you hang up the phone thinking, I got a sale. That's not enough, guys. You need to get something else from them. Now, even if it's, hey, yeah, why don't you think about it? Get with your partner. Let's go ahead and set up an account for you, okay? Let's go ahead and set up an account for you, and then I'll demo it to you, and I'll train you guys next week when I call you. If after I do all that, we get you set up, if you decide you don't want it at that time, you can just cancel it then. Just let me know, and we can cancel that. No harm, no foul, but let's go ahead and get you going. Now, Bob, what is the email address you want us to put on the account? Where should we be emailing all the alerts that show you every time you get a Google review? And you're quiet. See, because that's a stressful, I don't know if stressful is the right word. It's putting that business owner in a place where he's now either taking ownership or he's fighting that. Again, it's that point of insanity. So that the only way that you can get him there is to say, I'm setting up an account for you. Okay, try to get him to picture himself there. Break down all the barriers to where he finally says, okay, so we have a call next Thursday at 1 o'clock where you're going to be calling me and showing me the account that you set up for me. You got to get him in that place, because now he's going to start selling himself. He's going to start saying, you know what? That's a pretty good deal. It's $97. And this guy said he's going to give it to me free for the first month, or this guy said he's going to give it to me 50% off. I don't know. I'll listen. Yeah, it sounds good. But he's not going to do that based on, hey, shoot me an email. Shoot me an email is no ownership. Shoot me an email is it's just, how many times a day do you tell people to shoot you an email? It's no level of commitment at all. You're not painting the picture. He's not thinking, well, this guy's setting up an account for me. So you got to do that. Now, if you can do more than that, it's even better. Every other step that you can take that locks them down is even better. It's just like when you, and that's the whole reason why you do that. When you give away the free month, if you're doing that, that's why you have to get something signed. Have them sign any of it. And we've got that example in the back office of sort of the free trial agreement. But whatever it is, charge them $1, something. Because by doing that, you're instilling a level of commitment so that you can get to that point of insanity so that you don't have to sell anymore. He or she are selling themselves on the program. That's the name of the game. So some of you might be saying, wow, so it's that way every time? Yeah, kind of. So what 90% of your time is going to be spent is calling a business and just trying to get them on the phone. Then you get the guy on the phone, and it's about trying to keep him on the phone as long as possible. Let's say it doesn't happen. Let's say you don't even really get to pitch it. And he goes, look, I'm right in the middle of, I'm elbow deep in an engine right now. Or I am whatever. Not a problem, Bob, I'll call you next week. Then you call him next week. Same thing happens again. Not a problem, Bob, I'll call you next week. You call that guy every single week until finally he gets to that point of insanity and goes, now, why are you calling? What is this about? You called me every week for the last 4 weeks. Because eventually you guys are going to have hundreds of those. So you're always going to have new people you're putting in your pipeline. And you're going to have those hundreds of callbacks that for some reason it's kind of a mind game. But in our minds, it seems like a warm call. Because we've talked to the guy. We know his name. He told us to call back. So that's an easy call to make. The hard call for us, for whatever reason, because we don't like rejection, is to call the business where we don't know the owner's name, we don't know anything. It's like, just shooting in the dark. That's uncomfortable, but it's part of the game. We got to do it. If you can learn how to do that part, then you can be a successful salesperson the rest of your life. Till you're 90 years old. You can always be selling something, because if you can do that, that's the only trick to it. Train yourself to be able to prospect. And again, picking up the phone is always the quickest way. Now, we all try different methods. We all try voice broadcasting or voicemail drops or scope leads or email, some other email program, whatever. All those things are great as a kind of a shortcut to help you out. But I haven't found a single one that will solve it for you and make it where you never have to call anyone ever again. So at some point, you always got to get the person on the phone. And no matter how you got them, if it was through an email or through voicemail, or voice broadcasting, it's the same game. You still have to keep them on the line as long as possible. You got to get them to that point of insanity where he starts selling himself. And how do you do that? You keep them on the phone. You keep peppering away. Keep them on the phone. Keep peppering away. You've got to get an account set up for him. You've got to get the account set up for him. Do not let him go till you get that account set up for him. And if at that point he says, no, I'm not interested, and hangs up, then you know he really wasn't interested. He was just placating you. But if he's interested at all, why wouldn't he let you set up an account? You're not even asking for a credit card. And the answer is, of course, right? That's a sale. Now, you're not going to get every one of those either. That's the bad news. But you're going to get most of them. Oops. You're going to get a big number of those. But that's what you got to do. You have to learn silence. You've got to learn pausing. You've got to learn uncomfortable silence. And here's the other thing. So, in sales, if you don't feel a little uncomfortable, then you're probably not doing it right. That's just the reality. I mean, if you don't get to a point where you're like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm pushing too much, then you're probably not pushing enough. You're not doing it right. You've got to do that. Now, again, don't get that confused with being rude or aggressive in a bad way. Just remember that this guy needs the program. You got to believe that. And your job is to get him to get this program going. That's your job. And also realize this guy has 1,000 different things going on in any one month. And the last thing he's thinking about, probably if he could make a list of 100 things that do not enter his mind every month, reviews would be one of them. So again, that's where you're coming from. You got to bring that to the forefront. You got to get him to the point where he's actually paying attention. Once he's paying attention, you've got to get him ownership. Make sure he pictures himself having it. Make sure he's thinking in his mind, you know what? Yeah, hey, it's only $97 a month. Hey, if I picked up an extra 2 or 3 customers a month, that would be awesome. By the way, well, what if I only picked up one? That's still worth more than $97 a month. Yeah, and gosh, I don't want a bad reputation online. And I sure as hell don't want to give my customers to Larry's Automotive down the street. But the only way you're going to get him in that place is if you keep him on the phone and you keep talking and you keep sharing with him, painting the picture of reviews. And the way you do one of those examples is, hey Bob, so you can imagine that when people go online to look for a business, there's a certain percentage of them that are going to read reviews. Bob, not all of them. Not all of them, but a certain percentage. And that percentage is getting higher and higher. But here's the problem, Bob, is it happens in silence. You don't know that it's happening. Nobody goes online, reads negative reviews, and then calls you up, Bob, and says, hey, I just want to let you know I'm not doing business with you. I'm going to Larry's down the street. Your reviews are awful. Bob, that doesn't happen. So you think it's not a problem, but it is. I can almost guarantee that you're losing sales every single month for something that I can fix for you for $97 per month. And by the way, I can fix it for you and prove it to you first that it works. I'll give it to you free for the first month. Bob, there's no reason to say no to this. And guys, I say things like this. You guys should too. Hey Bob, is there any reason why you wouldn't buy this? Bob, what are you concerned about? I understand that it's not your practice to buy things over the phone, but what's your concern? I want to show you how the program works. Bob, do you understand that having a bad online reputation isn't a good thing? So what's your concern? If you ask that simple question, it does make you feel a little uncomfortable, but guess what? A lot of times they'll tell you. And they'll say, well, my concern is I don't like to buy anything over the phone. Well, Bob, I'm in Florida and you're in Alaska, so we can't meet in person, unfortunately. But I'm going to prove to you first that the program works, whatever you need to say. But you have to say those things. Is there any reason why you wouldn't buy this, Bob? Bob, do you have any concerns? When you say you're not interested, Bob, why? What's not interesting to you? And then just be quiet. See what they say. Sometimes they're going to be a little offended. Then you got to talk them out of it. Bob, I can appreciate what you're saying there because look, hey, reviews aren't the most exciting thing to talk about. But if you were in a boat and it had a little hole in it and you were sinking and the only one that knew about that little hole was me, and I didn't tell you, then I would feel responsible for your boat sinking. Bob, I'm calling you to tell you about the little hole that you have. Luckily, it's a very, very small hole, and as long as you keep moving forward, you probably won't sink. But sure would move a lot faster if that hole was patched. Bob, think about it. That's what we're doing here. And I'm going to prove it to you. Bob, if I give this to you free for a month, and I prove to you that the program works, is there any reason why you wouldn't keep it? And then you're quiet and you wait. Don't say anything. And you wait for him to answer. All right, guys. Well, that does it for me. Hopefully, I covered kind of the same thing I covered yesterday. Let me tell you, probably had more energy yesterday. I'm sorry you guys missed it. And I'm sorry I didn't hit record, but at least I got it done this morning. There's a lot of good points in this, and whether you're selling our program or you're selling whatever, I don't care. No matter what you're selling, if you're selling some sort of intangible, that's the sales process. That is what happens. So, a presentation doesn't sell a program. A PowerPoint doesn't sell a program. What sells a program is closing. Being a closer. And being a closer isn't letting them sell you, because there's a sale made every call. Either you sell them or they sell you. And you know how they're selling you? When they say, this sounds good. Yeah, I think I'd want to do this. Can you email me something and call me? That's them selling you. They're selling you into, oh, look, now you can stop. You can rest now. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to get uncomfortable. You don't have to do anything, because they're going to buy. That's your brain talking to you, but your brain's lying to you, because your brain knows that you don't like that feeling of failure, that uncomfortable feeling that you're wasting your time. So that little voice tries to reassure you. But it's not true. Even if the business might be honest. He might be telling the truth. He is interested. Email me something. Call me next week. But again, if you don't have some stronger hold on it, some stronger level of commitment, then you're probably not going to get him on the phone again. And you sure as hell may not get him back in that same spirit, that same mood that you got him into the first time. Now, maybe you will. But you got to pretend like you're not going to. So you got to get some level of commitment. Now, if you can't keep saying no, 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 well, yeah, at some point you're like, okay, well, let me ask you this, Bob. I'll email you some information and I'll call you next week. But, what's your main concern? Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to do our program? And you're quiet. Let him answer. Even if it's 10 minutes. And he finally says, hello? Is there anyone there? Hello? Yeah, Bob, I'm still here. I'm just waiting to hear your answer. But it won't happen that way. He'll talk. He'll talk first. But it will get uncomfortable as you wait for his answer. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys follow what I'm saying. Hopefully some of that hits home. Try that out today. Because, guys, on my end, it is super, super early in the morning. So I will get this rendered, get it up into the back office. Plenty of time for you guys to watch it today and use some of this stuff. I mean, most of you guys already know all this, so you all experience it. Maybe you just hadn't thought about it that way, but as you think back on all the sales you've ever done, doesn't it kind of go like that? Something really close to that? Every time. Now, if you call enough, you're going to get lucky where you call somebody and they buy immediately. In those cases, you know what it really was? Somebody else probably called them before, didn't close them. So they sold them, you got the sale. And it's happened to me a million times too, guys. I'll call a business and you're like, I just talked to somebody. First thing I'm thinking is, awesome, good. So they'll already kind of be familiar with it, but I know they didn't close. So I bet less than 1% of people that are salespeople are really salespeople, are closing. That's your job. Close. All right, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you shoot me an email. I'm going to go get some coffee. And yes, it is recording, and it has been recording the whole time. I kept checking it. So I finally got this done after, this is my third attempt. All right, guys. Have a good day.